Who is in your classroom? Generally, we have learners of different levels in each classroom. So it's very important for us to understand our learners in our classroom, because when we understand them and when we understand our roles and their roles, it is a lot easier to work together to create beautiful learning experience. And that's what we're going to look at today. So our objectives in this session is to identify the roles of teachers. Sorry, there is typographical error. That's supposed to be roles. I will try to correct it later on in the materials that I'm going to give you. Then we're going to also explore our understanding of teachers and learners' roles in classrooms, particularly, or in a larger expression in the school, but we're going to focus on classrooms. We're also going to match these roles of teachers with their responsibilities. Okay, so how are your roles significant, and what do they point to? Roles have to do with responsibilities, and then we're going to discuss the functions of the roles we're going to be discussing and their implication for learning. Now, there are many common roles of teachers in a school. If you got a job in a school, usually you're assigned a role and they would tell you, okay, you're a teacher. But is that all you do? What roles do you take on in your classroom? And I have a few roles here, which I will just go over briefly. But there are lots of other roles that teachers take on in school. And feel free to identify any other roles that are not listed in my slide. Okay, so one of your major roles, or one of the major roles of teachers, is the fact that they are planners. And in planning, we prepare lessons, we're supposed to reflect, we carry out research, we anticipate problems, adapt materials, and all of that. So you can see that if you understand what your role is, then you can self-audit to see how well you're fitting into that role. So, for example, how often do you prepare your lessons? What is the quality of those lessons? What is the essence of those lessons? What do you have in them? What are the step-by-step stages that you have prepared for your learners? So, as a planner, that is a major role that you carry each day. Now, you're also a facilitator, or teachers are facilitators. We prefer to facilitate learning because when we are facilitators, then we're like paving the way, making opportunities for learning experience open up to our learners. We're not really telling them, what to do. We are just opening up possibilities for young learners so they can learn new skills, learn materials, learn knowledge, etc. Now, another role of a teacher is a diagnostician. Okay, so you're not a medical doctor, but you can diagnose some of your learning needs. Okay, so you can diagnose like a doctor can diagnose a patient's problem, but you're not in the medical side, but you can diagnose their learning needs. What do my learners need? What is a problem? Why are they struggling with maybe mathematics or science or English? You can do that quite easily, either by talking with them, observing them, checking out some of the, doing a test, or looking at their classwork or homework. You might be able to find out what the gap is. And once you understand that gap, you can help to fill it in. Because if a child has a brick missing in a gap, let's say learning is like a brick wall. And if there's a gap missing or a few bricks missing on that wall, then the wall is not strong. But if you want to strengthen the wall, you can put in the missing bricks and close the gap. So teachers take on the role of diagnosticians. We manage resources, we manage activities, we generally manage our classrooms. And this is a place where some learners are not satisfied with some teachers. They feel that the classroom is not well organized. It's noisy, it's loud, it's disorganized, things are not done systematically. Maybe the teacher is maybe raising their voice, The teacher may not be able to have control. So you might be very good in teaching, but if you can't manage a classroom, then you're not creating the right environment for learning. Children can speak during discussions and all of that, but the kind of speaking we do when we're doing activities is very productive. A learner will never complain about it, but they would usually complain about any other thing that is outside of the teacher's control. We are observers, we monitor when children work, we are resources, we're rapport builders, we're assessors, and we're presenters. And these are some of the things that we can look at as we go along. Now, when we look at your roles or my role as a teacher, we can match each role to a stage of a lesson. So I would like for you to reflect. At what point in the lesson are you a planner? At what point are you building rapport? You know, at what point are you facilitating? When do you find yourself being a manager? At what stage of the lesson are you monitoring the lesson? When are you an assessor? When are you a diagnostician? These are only a few roles. There are lots of roles we take on. But it's very important for planning your lessons, understanding that at each stage of your lesson, you take on a different role. If you just have one role from the beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson, obviously something is wrong with the lesson. But if you can identify some of those stages, then you can know what you're expected to do as a teacher. So, for example, as a planner, before the lesson, you carry out research, you prepare your materials. For example, your teaching materials. You're also looking at the strategies that will match your learning. And at this point, I'm going to give you a poll because I want to check something that, let's see, I'm looking for a poll. Let's see if I can find the poll. Yes, this is a poll for each one to just type in a few words, please. So I have this for you to think about because we're looking at the planning stage of the lesson. And I extracted this from a teacher's lesson plan. It says, by the end of the lesson, students should be able to A, state all the functions of the skin, B, name the types of skin, C, mention the types of bleaching, D, name two parts of the skin, and E, list 3 skin care materials. So my question is, what do all these objectives have in common? Look at them. What do they have in common? Do they look okay to you? Do they look odd? Do they resemble each other? My question is, what do these objectives have in common? Please just type in your response to me because it's important for us in our session today to explore what we do as teachers. Okay, somebody says skin, so I will be more precise. The objectives itself, not the topic. Okay, if they look odd, like one of you has just said, tell me why they look odd. And if they are good, tell me why they're good. Or if they resemble in terms of the expressions or maybe the part of speech that is used, just look at it. What do they have in common? Don't worry about the topic. I'm not looking for skin or skincare. There must be something else that you can see that they have in common. Look at it carefully. They are objectives. You write objectives every day. Okay, is this what you do? Is this how you create your own objectives? What do you use to create your objectives? The kind of expressions that you use. So just reflect on that and tell me, what do they have in common? What are your observations about these objectives? All right, I'm going to wait for more people to answer. Please look at them and answer. One says, state the functions of the skin. One says, name the types of skin. One says, mention the effects of bleaching. One says, name 2 parts. One says, list. So someone says, all are recall based. Thank you very much. Someone says they're requesting the students to state or list. Thank you very much. So, what do they have in common? They are low on the level of, on the taxonomy of knowledge. So you're asking students to state, name, mention, name, list. We're not using higher order thinking. We're not really learning anything substantial. We're not differentiating between two skin types. We're not discussing about skin types. We're just naming and telling. We're using a type of teaching that does not really develop the thinking skills or the understanding of our learners. We're just asking our learners to cram um, the things, the items we're teaching them without understanding them. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so somebody says, lists all are goals. Yes, they are goals. They all require students to list. They are all shallow on the taxonomy of knowledge, which is something we're going to look at later. So you see, if you set up 3 objectives and all the objectives are at the lowest level of the taxonomy of knowledge, they're all low, they're all shallow, then what are your students really going to learn? And how are you dealing with your students? Are you dealing with them as people that you can trust your life with? Tomorrow they're going to be a doctor. Maybe one will be a doctor, one will be an engineer. They might build bridges for you. They might take care of your healthcare. They may make decisions that affect your life. And when that time comes, will you trust that you have taught your children well? Have you helped them to think, to make decisions that are accurate or precise? Or have you taught them just to give to you exactly what you gave to them? Name, list, recall. I don't think that's good enough. When my child was in nursery school, she came home and she gave me all the names and capitals of Nigeria, the states and capitals of Nigeria. You know, she could name all of them: Kaduna State, Kaduna, Sokoto State, and all of that. It was impressive. But actually, she didn't really know what the concept of a state was. She didn't know where they were, which was in the north or in the south. What the teacher did was just teach her to memorize information without understanding the information. Is that good for our learners? I think that our learners deserve more.